Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our discussion on reincarnation tonight. I am so excited. I threw karma in there also because I realized that I can't talk about reincarnation without talking about karma as well, because they go so hand in hand. So it seems like in the past I've been able to separate them out a little bit more, but I think because we have a different timeline, which is to say all the time in the world, right? We can stretch that out as long as we need to for the next few weeks. I, as you may be aware by now, get so excited talking about this. And as I was putting the PowerPoint together, I realized my excitement around this is partially based on years of studying with Jane Elizabeth, Center for Enlightenment, and also years of working with my own past lives to understand the reincarnation process and the connections between one lifetime to another, and how all of that has created who I am today, and what do I need to do with that information and all of that. So I will ask you to please ask questions along the way. Just throw it in the chat and I'll stop whenever I get to a stopping point and check those questions, because I will probably accidentally assume that all of this stuff is perfectly logical and makes all the sense in the world. And that's not necessarily true from somebody maybe who's listening to this for the first time, or who maybe has this understanding but wants to just understand it a little bit more, or get more explanation on a certain aspect of it. If none of this resonates with you, it's fine. Just be entertained. It's a fun little presentation, and just put it on the back burner and don't worry about it. So anyway, all right, onto the PowerPoint. All right, let me see. Share my screen. I even made a little cartoon for us today too. So we're going to have so much fun. Okay, whoops, is that the one I wanted to do? Oh, there we go. All right, slideshow. Okay, so reincarnation and karma, what we need to know, what it's helpful to know anyway. So Center for Reincarnation Studies, welcome back. All right, yeah, that's not the last cartoon there's going to be, so hang in there. All right, so evolution of the soul. Again, just to recap, where have we been? We've been through all these different forms of consciousness. Once we were created as an individualized expression of cosmic intelligence and love, we had to go through stages of developing materially our consciousness, our awareness, our physical being. So we've gone from that inanimate, unconscious being that doesn't react to the world, but is reacted at by the world. And then our second form we went through our animal lives. And, that first form included minerals and plants and inanimate objects and of all sorts of kinds. And then the animal form has its own space in evolution and its own evolutionary process, from lesser conscious creatures to greater conscious creatures. And then we reach our human form, which is what we're going to be talking about exclusively today. And we develop our intelligence, and our emotion is coming into development through that second form and third form. And then eventually we move into our spiritual form, which is a development of intuition. And I have my brain picture here because it's really fascinating that every time we come into incarnation, our bodies go through this whole evolutionary process between a cell that has all this potential. If you think of our souls as a cell of God, a cell of the universe with all the potential of that universe in that tiny little cell. So too an egg or a sperm cells have all this information that just is waiting to express. And then those cells come together and they start creating this amoeba, not really technically an amoeba, but these forms of cells, and they're still kind of, they're animated, but they're still not quite fully formed into some kind of animal form. But then eventually it gets there, and then by the time the 9 months is over, and even before that, that human form takes place. So every time we come into incarnation, we go through this evolutionary process. It's really fascinating. So we've got our reptilian brain, that brain stem that gets developed first, and then the limbic system, and then the cognitive human logic, language, creativity part of our human brains gets created too. And then we are born and we get to start a new life. So anyway, that's my brain nerd sharing with you. Brain nerd meets soul evolution nerd. All right, so reincarnation, how does it work? Just a few things to keep in mind as we're exploring this more deeply today. We begin in our human lives in that third form or third dimensional part of our existence, which is our human incarnations. We begin as an unconscious human. So we come from our animal form into our human form, and we don't really know a lot as a human being. We have our brains, but we haven't had the opportunity to develop those brains or practice being human. We've had a little bit of community practice in our animal lifetime, so that comes forward with us. But we're still very instinctive. We're still very survival mode oriented. But we also have these innate mechanisms inside of us. We have an innate need to express and explore and procreate, but there's that emotional piece that's part of that. There's the physical attraction, but there's also more to that going on. We have an innate curiosity. We just, that it propels us to learn things and want to figure things out and learn how to do things. We have that innate ability within us. And so as we're developing as human beings, we acquire desires and abilities and skills, resentments, needs. All of that becomes part of our experience. We also have an innate need to have energy be balanced. So we can almost say that sense of revenge is part of our human nature. So if somebody did us wrong, we want to fight back, and part of that's our survival mechanism, our protective mechanism. But that's innate inside of us. And there's also this innate need to know oneself as something more. And eventually that leads us to desiring to know our whole spiritual self. But early on, it is that little drive inside of us, and you may be aware of it now. It's like, I know there's something else I need to be doing. There's something else. There's something else. I'm missing something. What is that something I'm missing? And that is an innate drive within us, and it's put there for good reason, so that we continue to grow and learn, and then eventually want to go, okay, there's got to be more to this than this human existence. There's got to be more going on. So a couple of quotes here from some books. These quotes came from Jane Elizabeth's notes on her reincarnation class that I took 28 years ago. Practical Christianity for You was a Unity book. Jane Elizabeth went into the archives at Unity's headquarters in Lee Summit, Missouri, Unity Village, it's called. Unity is the denomination I grew up in, the spiritual understanding that I grew up in. And Jane Elizabeth went into the archives and looked up everything she could find on reincarnation and how integrated into Unity's history and Unity's teachings that it was, because it kind of got lost over the years. And as she was becoming a licensed Unity teacher, which is how I met her, So so glad she did this, because she grew up Methodist, right? So, for her to find her way back to learn about unity, I'm very grateful for, because again, that's how I met her. So she pulled out all these quotes from unity materials about reincarnation. And that's just been part of the understanding, even though you can go to a unity church and maybe they believe in reincarnation and teach that, and maybe they don't. But it's really hard to teach if you don't have that in-depth study of, why should I know this? What's it doing for me lately? So this first quote, reincarnation is not a goal in itself, but a means by which we are enabled to continue toward the real goal in life, in spite of failures. When the final goal of unity with God is reached, reincarnation will disappear. So that is our goal, is not to be reincarnating forever, but to be reincarnating until we've developed enough of our strengths as a human being that we can then use those strengths to release that the human attachments and the human understanding of the world, and be more open to what's really going on behind the scenes, and to have the strength to make that leap in evolution. Okay. Too often we forget that reincarnation is but a step in our development. When we have fully mastered our spiritual self, we no longer seek new bodies and new experience on the earthly plane. That's from Unity magazine. And the Practical Christianity for You is a book from like 1964. I'm not recommending that you read these, because I don't know how interesting they are, but just to give you a little bit of unity history, I guess. All right, reincarnation is the new afterlife. So I love this. We used to send souls of the dead to heaven or hell, but then that whole recycling mania began, and this is what we're doing now. But this is always the way it's been, even if it hasn't felt like it. All right. So to continue our understanding of our reincarnation cycles, we need to understand that we have these three aspects of our mind. A lot of you have seen this subconscious iceberg metaphor picture that I've shared. This is in Spiritual Power Tools, the book by Jane Elizabeth Hart that we went over before we started our Evolution of the Soul series. And in that book, she talks about three aspects of mind. We have our conscious self, which is our awake self, and that's the part that is, I guess if I point to it on my screen, you're not going to see that, but it's the part that's above the water. Okay, so that's our representing our conscious self. So we have ourself. So I have myself that I know as Lynn. Okay, you have yourself that you know as you. And then underneath that is our whole history, our whole soul history. That is our memory warehouse. Some people call it the Akashic Records, right? That where every experience that we've ever had in the history of our souls is right there in the rest of that iceberg. Every experience in every form is part of who we are. So that subconscious carries all of that past life history. Now, why don't we remember that? Well, there's a veil between that conscious and subconscious mind that keeps us focused on today. It helps keep us focused on today, because if we remembered our past lives, because remember, we have had to develop as human beings. So we've done some pretty not so awesome stuff in how we would judge that today, in our history. And if we remember that, we would be wrapped with guilt or anger at the other people who did us wrong or whatever. And we wouldn't be able to manage ourselves emotionally. And as it is, a lot of times our subconscious stuff leaks out anyway, and it's hard to manage. So can you imagine remembering 200 past lives all at the same time and trying to deal with this life? It would be utterly impossible. So that's why there's that veil there, even though there are leakages through that, which we're going to talk about later today if we get to it, or tomorrow, or next week, or the week after that, but we'll get there. And then there's the superconscious part of ourselves, which is our soul, our God self, our Atma, our in Unity, we called it Christ consciousness, right? It's that part of us that is that divine part of us that's all around us, in and through our subconscious. It's there, it's all of us, it's who we are, it's our essence. Okay. So, another cartoon. Church of Reincarnation. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I wanted to put this here just to remind me to say that reincarnation isn't about, well, if we had only done it right the first time, we wouldn't have had to come back. There's no way we could have gotten it right the first time. It's like expecting a first grader to graduate with a doctorate. You know, there's just, that's mean to expect that. And that's impossible. And it's, we come back because we have skills that we have to develop over time. So it's not about, there are some ways that we're succeeding working through our issues, or we didn't quite get it right, so we do have to keep trying until we get it right, and in that way, but it's less about failure and success and just more about, okay, here's a skill I have to master, and I get as many opportunities to master that skill as I need. So, hey, I can take forever mastering that skill if I want to, but what we're going to talk about too is like, gosh, I'd rather cooperate with this now that I know I have to learn the skill of forgiveness, let's say, or meditation, or patience, or acceptance, or whatever. Once I can master that skill, then I get to go on to the next one to master. And as we're mastering these skills, we're also releasing, we're gaining understanding about what's going on behind the scenes, and we're releasing our attachments to our past, really, is what we're doing. So, all right. Can anyone really reach the height of learning all there is to know? Well, I would like the simple answer is no, because the infinite intelligence is infinite. Infinite love is infinite. So we will always keep growing, always keep learning. When we finish our humanhood and we're in our first, when we let go of our humanhood and we are our spiritual being and we align with that and we identify with that fully, then a new school starts, right? Then we're in a whole different, like, okay, this is the first time I'm in my spiritual self fully. So now I'm in a whole new place in evolution. And really, a lot of spiritual teachers, like Meher Baba, for example, it's one of the books I've shared the last couple of weeks. He talks about that next phase as involution. So our soul evolution is going out into the world and learning how to be human and accumulating all of this karma and thought forms and all of this stuff that is important to our understanding and our growth. And then when we get into that spiritual school, if you will, we're unwinding, we're involuting, we're going inside and learning about that universe inside of us that we have come from. So yeah, short answer, no, we're not ever going to finish learning, but there are different phases to that learning, and there's so much to learn, like beyond what we can even possibly picture right now. So we're going to focus on our human learning because that's where I'm at too. I'm there with you. So we're going to just focus on that for now. All right. Good question, by the way. So if reincarnation is the machine through which we evolve, the cycle of birth and rebirth, then karma is the fuel that pushes us through that cycle. All right, so what is karma? So karma, in Unity, I grew up learning that it's the law of mind action. I didn't really know what the word karma was until I was in my 20s and learning from Jane Elizabeth. So we called it the law of mind action, which is, what you put energy into you returns to you 100-fold. So whatever you put out comes back to you. And we're going to kind of explore this a little bit more. But karma includes desires, aversions, unresolved issues or relationships, our interests, our fears, and all of that fuels this process. It keeps us going because it's karma is energy, and energy is in motion all the time. So so that motion is what fuels that reincarnation process. So let's look at karma a little bit more. So karma is an umbrella, okay? So it's cause and effect, basically. Bottom line, cause and effect. Karma isn't good, karma isn't bad, karma is neutral. It's energy. So if you think of karma as being energy, it's, this energy has been put out and now it comes back, or 200 years from now, it comes back, but it's always in motion. So again, in Unity, we call that the law of mind action. And our little statement was that thoughts held in mind produce their own kind. If you grew up in Sunday school, maybe you learned the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the basic, let's do good karma rule that we were taught. The law of attraction that is big out there. What you desire will be fulfilled. And I put in there some restrictions apply because that can get people caught up. It's like, well, I've put all this energy into it. Where is it? But, if we're only looking at that energy that we've put into something in one lifetime, then we may not see that, hey, we've got to have a lot more karmic credits in that direction before it's going to be able to be manifested. So that's a kind of a whole different thing. I added to this too, the law of aversion, which is really basically the law of attraction also, but it's really important to have its own thing, right? So if we have an aversion to something, we're still putting energy into it. We're putting this energy into it instead of this energy into it, but it's still energy. So what we resist persists. If you've heard that before, whatever we resist will keep coming back to us until we're not resisting in that anymore. And if you remember last week when we went through that chart of the differences between how we are in the third dimension versus how we are in the fourth dimension, our human self versus our spiritual self that Jane Elizabeth put in the Spiritual Power Tools book, you'll remember that that when we're in the fourth dimension, when we're in that spiritual consciousness, we're beyond the opposites. But until then, we are bound by the opposites as human beings. So we may enjoy something, but then that thing ends, and then maybe we feel sad about it, or maybe we feel neutral about it. But then we may feel neutral about it for a little while, but then it's like, oh, I want that experience again. So then we go back to it. So there's still kind of an opposite, push-pull all the time with things that are happening. And so but also to make really clear that when we have an aversion to something, that is also energy going out in a direction. So it's no different than desiring something. It's just we're trying to, in our minds, we're trying to push one away and draw another one to us, but it's all energy. So energy is still attracting that thing to us, whether we like it or not, if it's something we like or if it's something we don't like. So even in science, we have this law, Newton's law of motion or force. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's karma. That is cause and effect. That is karma. Period, end of report. And I love having that science piece in there because science, again, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that I love blending science in with spirituality, because even if science is a little slow on the uptakes, it's still part of what's happening, and it's still part of the way our universe operates at every level until we move beyond our human existence, and then the rules are a little bit different. All right. So are there any other ways that you've heard this little law of mind action or law of attraction? It's law of sowing and reaping. As you sow, so shall you reap. That's as you put energy out, so you get it back. What comes around goes around. Energy follows thought. Do you guys have any others that have come up for you as you're thinking about this? I always like collecting these because there's an intuitive, it's like at some level, we all understand this. We all understand that, I do A and B happens, or I put out this and I get this. So anyway, feel free to throw those in the chat section if you think of anything. So let's talk more about desires. So our desires, and I would say aversions also, have energy. And, because of this karmic law that we work under, every desire, every energy that we put out demands fulfillment. It demands fulfillment. So as long as we're in the opposites and we live from that human existence of where opposites are at play all the time, then our desires demand fulfillment. Our aversions demand fulfillment. So that desire is an energy that creates a thought form that is magnetic. Okay, and if the desire is not fulfilled in this lifetime, it will be fulfilled in a future lifetime. And that's kind of the caveat that I run into with people who have come to me with, and in classes over the years, and gosh, growing up in the New Thought movement over the years, is like, well, I've been a good person, I've done all of this right, and difficult things are still happening, or this hasn't manifested for me, what am I doing wrong? And so what I try to do is say, okay, well, we have to look at the bigger picture, because if you're putting energy into being a millionaire, that's awesome. Keep doing that, because someday you will be a millionaire. But if you don't have the karmic credits coming into this lifetime to be a millionaire, it's not going to happen. And that's, if you want to be a basketball player, but you've chosen to be 5'3" in this lifetime, that's going to be a lot harder for you than, if you keep practicing your basketball and you keep, working those skills and learning about that. And then maybe next time you'll be 7 feet tall and you'll be an awesome basketball player. We have to look at the bigger picture, and it's okay. I mean, once we understand it, it's like, oh yeah, well, of course that makes sense. But it also can be hard to hear too, because that's disappointing that, oh gosh, maybe I'm not going to get the desire fulfilled that I want. And do I really want to have to work for 2 more lifetimes before that becomes a fulfillment for me? Is it worth it to me? Or can I be using my energy, my lifetimes, for something that is more supportive of myself or humanity? Or I don't know. I mean, we all get to decide what we're going to do with that energy. But if it's not fulfilled this time, it will be fulfilled in a future life. And also with that aversion, if we don't resolve that aversion in this lifetime, hey, that's okay. We'll have lots of other opportunities to resolve that. So desire is the driving force. That energy, karma, is that driving force behind the evolutionary plan. And I think I've shared before, I was meditating one day years ago, and there's a song that I learned in Sunday school. I don't know if you know this, because I know in Unity we sang different songs than everybody else was singing on Sundays, but it went, it's love, it's love, it's love that makes the world go round. I promise I won't sing for you, but those are the words. And I was in meditation. I was just about ready to stand up to go do whatever I was going to do. And I heard, desire is what makes the world go round. And it's like, oh yeah, this is desire. We don't have to keep coming back. We don't have to keep going round and round and round if we let go of the human desires that don't fit our soul's best interests in growing and learning and healing and being more of our potential. And that inquisitive part of us, that innate curiosity of our souls, will eventually desire our next step in evolution. We will eventually all desire to go, okay, I am over humanity. Maybe we feel that especially this week, I don't know, but I am over humanity. I want to go beyond all of this. And that's a process. That's a process within itself. And if somebody could be my awesome timekeeper too, and let me know when it's about a quarter till, so in about 15 minutes, so I can make sure we get our meditation time in, that would be helpful, because I can't see my clock on my screen when my PowerPoint is up. All right, so I've grown tired of living in the opposites, somebody's saying. It's exhausting. What about practicing being in the middle and walking that path? So absolutely, you know, so Yogananda said, and Yogananda is who wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, which is one of the books that that I've shared about before. And, you know, learning to, okay, let me say this first, then I'll go back to Yogananda. Learning to walk the middle path is our job so that we aren't reacting emotionally to things, because when we react emotionally to things, that's energy we're putting out, you know? So walking that middle ground is absolutely part of the process, because then we can say, okay, here's what's happening in the world. Here's how I really want to be reacting right now. And what I need to do is stay right here. And in that way, we're retraining our brains. We are retraining, and we are helping our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind to be in alignment so that we're not reacting to this. And yeah, that's exactly the way to help ourselves out of those opposites. So what Yogananda said was, as we go through life, the bad thorn in our sides is replaced by the good thorn, and then we throw both thorns away. And that's such a beautiful way to describe our human evolution, right? Is we have to learn kind of the hard way for a really long time, because that's how we learn. You know, it's like we're babies and we're falling down, trying to learn how to crawl and walk, and we're running into things, we're bumping into things, we throw fits, we try to do the right thing and all of that. And we struggle. And then we go, okay, I know how to be a good person. I've made so many mistakes. They're just learning, you know, I've learned so much. Let me put it that way. I've learned so much in my other lifetimes. I can be a good person now. But being a good person isn't our spiritual self either. Being beyond our human self is our spiritual self. So there's a process of like, okay, I can be a good person, but that still doesn't help me know me. That doesn't help me know that I am presence within myself. So even that is, you know, being a good person is awesome and needed and valued. And that's not our spiritual self. That's our consciousness our human consciousness that we've grown into, and we've made enough learning opportunities to know that it's so much easier to be a good person than not, right? So, okay. So another question, if desires are things that propel us forward as inquisitive beings, which sounds good, then how do we reach the place where we don't have more desires, where we want to be? Okay, so again, it's about, you know, yeah, I can be a good person, but I'm still in this human world. I still have this tug that's telling me there's more. There's more to life than just being a good person, because even being a good person could get really boring after a while, and we don't want to go back the other way. It's like, wow, it was so much more fun to be nasty and you know, not follow any rules. But there's got to be something else. There's got to be something more that I can understand, and it's kind of this this, you know, we that's really set up for us before we come into this life, where we have that pull of like, oh, I I know there's something more. I want, it's a spiritual desire that we come in with. I want to know God. I want to know my whole self. I know I want to serve God. I mean, that was always my thing. I want to serve God. And I had to, and still work on letting go of that desire because it's not about serving God. It's about cooperating with my own God self, cooperating with that flow. And how do I free myself from my debts, my karmic debts? How do I free myself from getting involved in politics when family members are posting things that drive me crazy? How do I let go of that? What is it pushing on in me? And how do I let go of that? So, but it's that drive. It's like, it's not like, well, let me go change that person. It's, okay, what is this hitting on in me? And how do I free myself from this? That's the road. That's the road. And that's a wonderful road to be on. It's a lot more empowering. We have so much control more over ourselves than we do over anything else happening in the world. So why not go that route? Right. So anyway, awesome questions. All right. Okay, so here comes the fun. Oh, we are not going to have time to go through all this, but we're going to get started, because if we repeat a lot of this next week, it will be useful. I promise. So in teaching this over the years, I made up a little story about Sally and Jim in the purple, and then the other guy who I have never named, actually. But anyway, so this is about a soul and how a soul accumulates that big subconscious iceberg over lifetimes. Okay. Needless to say, this is extremely simplified, so bear with me, but I'm a visual person and I wanted to create something visual so that you can see how all of this is built and how it's interconnected. Okay. All right. So that is only half of my, oh, there she is. Oh, I did not know I did that. It's animated and I have no awareness of that. All right. So, but that's helpful. Okay. So I will just have to not click things. All right. So this is Sally's iceberg. Okay. She has her 1/10 conscious up here at the top. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving around. And this is Sally. Okay. All these little expressions, color expressions, have made up Sally in this lifetime. And as I'm talking about Sally, just think of this as yourself, because we all have little colorful parts of our consciousness that have made us who we are today. And then there's Sally's veil between her conscious and her subconscious. And then all of this in her 9/10 subconscious, her iceberg, her Akashic record, if you will, has come along with her since the get-go. The parts in the it's actually a kind of violet circles, but it looks gray there. That's latent karma. Okay, that's karma. The empty circles are karma that is carried around there, but it doesn't have anything to do with her lifetime today. Okay, so we all have that. We have, I don't know, let's say 200 lives that we've lived as humans. I don't know if that's accurate. I have no idea. But one lifetime only consists of certain pieces of karma that we're dealing with. If we had to deal with 200 lifetimes worth of karma in one lifetime, we would all be nutty. Absolutely. So thank God we only have to deal with so much at a time. All right. So Sally had her first life in the little red circle, and that's Sally. She came into existence. She learned how to survive. Maybe Sally was a she, maybe Sally was a he. Doesn't matter. I'm going to talk about Sally as Sally, so it's going to sound like she was female in every lifetime, but she wasn't. None of us were. We were male, female, gay, straight, all different colors, all different religions, all different countries, everything. Like there's no consistent characteristics, outer characteristics from one lifetime to another. No physical characteristics because that doesn't matter. That makes no difference whatsoever to our soul evolution. We choose those human characteristics based on what we want to do in a certain lifetime. Okay, so her first lifetime, she came into existence and then lived her life. Maybe she got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, I don't know. But then she passes on from that, her red lifetime, and goes into her yellow lifetime. Now her yellow lifetime, she says, well, you know, my red lifetime really had some treacherous moments. I think I need a partner, because if I have a partner, maybe I'll be safer. Okay, so that was a decision that she made. So in comes Jim in her life. Now, you know, she and Jim, they're okay. They get along for a while, but then Jim does something that really ticks her off, and she kicks him out and never wants to talk to him. Maybe she, like, you know, burns him alive. I don't know, because, you know, this is only her second life. So she hasn't quite figured out the whole empathy, you know, don't kill people kind of thing. So, you know, she probably did something pretty horrible to him. All right. Isn't that a happy thought? Okay. So, but she's got her essence of herself in that lifetime still. Okay. So she goes on with her yellow life. She dies and then comes back in this kind of steely gray life. Okay. So now I have to click that, right? Okay. So her steely gray life, she's there, her basic understanding of how to survive is there. And Jim is back because, you know, if she offed him last time, then that, you know, karma sucks. And so he's got to be back in this lifetime. And guess what? Oh, he's not so happy about the whole situation. So I don't know if I did my colors right on this either, so forgive me. But okay, so then Jim is back, but she also has a supportive partner who is the other guy in the picture who I haven't actually put a name to. So feel free to add your suggestions. So she's got the supportive partner, but she's also got Jim, who's out to get her now, because that's the way that energy works. And so maybe she doesn't survive very long, but man, she's got this supportive partner that she adores. So, you know, so end this lifetime and now coming into the blue lifetime. So she's got her survival instinct. She's got her supportive partner who came back with her, and Jim, of course, because now whose turn it is? It's Sally's turn. It's Sally's turn for revenge. So Jim's got to be there. So Jim is there, and now she has kids. So now she's getting into this like procreation, parenting, nurturing. She's developing these skills. She's got her partner who she adores. They're becoming buddies and a really good support for each other. And Jim. Okay. So then whatever happens in that lifetime happens, probably doesn't end awesomely, because look, it's only 4 lifetimes into her existence. So, you know, none of us were awesome at that time. So then then Sally goes to her purple lifetime. She's got herself. Jim is back. It's his turn. Maybe they've learned not to kill each other at this point, but they're definitely going to sabotage whatever the other is trying to do, because they haven't resolved that energy, right? So right now it's just this karmic ball game going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this is so simplistic, but so exactly the way this works. So yay. No wonder we get tired of being human after a while. Thank goodness. All right. So she's got her supportive partner who's her buddy in this, maybe trying to, keep her calm so she doesn't off Jim again, and tries to think it through a little bit better, problem solve, brainstorm some better ideas. Her kids are back in whatever form. Maybe her kids are her parents now instead of her kids, but they are souls in her lifetime. She's accumulating her soul group, and probably there's been a lot of people who've come along, but again, I'm trying to simplify this. So all right. So, and now she is starting to work and starting to develop skills that are helping others. Maybe she's a seamstress. Maybe I've had several lifetimes where I've created things, rugs and weaving, and, all the way up to being a seamstress in a lifetime, my most recent lifetime. So, so all all of this work that she's doing is developing skills and abilities and talents. And, maybe she is a leader and has people who she's working with. So not only does she have her family, and she's got people that she's working with and teaching and managing in some way. And, and then there's Jim that she's dealing with, however she's dealing with this time. Maybe she puts him in the corner office way far away from everybody and, isolates him. I don't know. But anyway, he's still there. They're still trying to work that through. All right, keep adding your questions, but I'm going to walk through this whole thing and then go back and answer questions. And we'll have this pretty colorful thing on our screen. All right, so the purple lifetime ends, however it ends. Maybe it's a peaceful passing this time instead of a horrible death by Jim. But then we go into the green lifetime, Sally's green.
I wanted to know that it was time.
Oops. Make sure you
wanted to know that it was time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ah, darn. Okay. So I'm going to finish this screen and we'll come back to it next week, but we'll have a little meditation. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. All right. So the green lifetime, because we're almost done. We've only got 2 more lifetimes after the green one. So in the green lifetime, she's got her self, her survival. She's getting that down really well. Jim is there. I think it's Jim's turn to sabotage Sally in some way. So that's going on. She's got her supportive partner, her kids in whatever form they're coming back, her work, her expression. She's developing a skill set that can look on the outside totally different from one lifetime to the next, but the skill set is the same. So as an example, I was talking about my weaving and seamstressing, and in one lifetime that showed up as creating newsprint and creating flyers and news during the Revolutionary time, right before that was all happening, and working on getting people stirred up. No wonder news stirs me up. I didn't think about that this weekend. Fascinating. Okay, note to self. Thank you. I'll explain that some other time, but I have to process that. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Okay, so where was I? So she's got her expression, her work expression, and then maybe she has a desire to lead, to be a bigger leader. So she's taking her skills and she's expanding them, and that means also that more people are in her charge. So she's accumulating more souls that she's responsible for. All right. And then we go to the gray lifetime, where again, she's got all these other pieces in there. And then she's got her employees that she's working with even to an even greater extent now, because this is really important to her. And this is a building skill for her. If she were a musician, maybe from lifetime to lifetime in this series of lives that we're looking at, then maybe she would be, just kind of learning in the first lifetime and then, doing duets and then kind of expanding that slowly but surely. So that's what we're talking about. It's like there's a skill set that eventually expands slowly but surely over time. All right. And then in our brown lifetime here, there's Sally, Jim, right back at each other, her supportive partner, and all these people in her life. And maybe this was a lifetime where she said, you know what, I have all these people and they're around me, but I really have this desire for God. I want to kind of explore that. I've never really explored that in another lifetime. I mean, it's been all around because human existence has always had some kind of higher power to help explain things, in some shape or form. And, but maybe she's like, I really want to dive more deeply into that. So maybe she's a priest in a monastery somewhere or whatever, but she has a lifetime where she spends her whole life devoted to whatever her idea of God was at that time. Okay. But it's not just about being outwardly spiritual or devoutly religious either. It's about getting beyond our human form. So even though she had this beautiful spiritual lifetime that we would call spiritual lifetime, that's not it. That's not the end of the deal. So then she comes into Sally today, and she has all these parts that have followed her. And I didn't connect all these colors, but if we connected all these colors, there would be this rainbow going throughout these lifetimes and creating who she is today. So all of those past lifetimes are more on the surface for her because they have created who she is today. And so those are very important lifetimes to her, and just a little bit more not in her awareness, because the lives themselves are still under the veil, still behind the veil. But those are the skill set, those are the karmic accumulations that created her life plan for this lifetime, so that she can resolve whatever she needs to resolve with Jim. She can continue that supportive relationship with what's his name. And, you know, she has a responsibility to her employees from the past, and, you know, whatever, you know, judgments have come along, you know, her judgments towards herself, her judgments toward others. All of these things have come and become a part of who Sally is today. So remember, we're going to come back to this next week and take it from here. But remember, this is our journey. This is each of our journeys. So we all have, I am not just Lynn. My parents named me Lynn, and I chose my all that's happening in my life as part of how I get to learn my lessons in this lifetime. I'm not just Lynn, this one person. I am an accumulation of things that I've developed over lifetimes, issues as well as talent, skills, whatever. So this is each of our story. So that leads us up to, how is this iceberg, this subconscious iceberg created? How is our Akashic record created? It's created by every single moment, micro moment of our experiences throughout the history of our individual soul existence. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that we can have some meditation time together, because that's a lot to take in. And that's kind of a nice place to stop too, because now you can kind of think about it like, oh, so what, you know, so I'm not just me, I am lots of little me's inside that have created who I am today. Oh, I've got a me who likes to sew, which I don't like to sew in this lifetime. Note to you all. So don't bring me here anything that needs sewing. On a good day, I can put a button on. That's it. But we have all these, you know, there's a me that used to sew, but uses those skills to put a PowerPoint together. You know, there's a me that, you know, likes sushi. There's a me that, you know, all of these different likes and aversions that we have are all representative of where we've been. So we're going to talk more about that next week and talk about, you know, how can I see little clues about my past lives? You know, you can go and get a past life regression done. That's fine and fun and all of that. But if you pay attention to yourself, if you pay attention to what's in your room around you and what are your likes and what are your aversions, you will learn a lot about your past lives. And I'll talk more about that next week. And I've got a couple handouts that I'll refer you to at that time too. So really interesting stuff. And wherever we go, there we are. So it's all around us all the time. So, okay. So I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths. I invite you to do that with me. I just need to settle down because I get so excited about this. But the most important part of ourselves is that God presence within us. It's that essence of the everything with a capital E. Infinite intelligence, infinite love, infinite wisdom. All of that is at our core and the most important part of our expression. Everything else has served to get us there. So if you think of a cell, C-E-L-L, cell, and you think of its very center, its nucleus. And in that nucleus is where all the energy happens, all the action takes place. Just think of your own center. Wherever you feel that right now is your nucleus. I like to think of my heart as my center. But maybe you feel it more in your gut. Maybe you feel it more in your bottom that sits on the chair or your feet on the floor, wherever you feel it. Just get in touch with it as your center. And breathe into that center. Just feel your breath, breathing into it, that breath going right into the center of that nucleus. And breathing out through that center. And continue to feel your breath breathing in through that nucleus, through that center, and out through that center. So that everything else we've ever experienced, being in touch with that center is the most important thing. Beyond any lifetime we've ever lived, the center was with us. Always there, being that desire for wholeness, desire for oneness, desire for expansion. It's been the desire and the door. And as you breathe in and out through that center, that nucleus, feel that openness, feel the breeze of that open door. Just feel that breeze coming in and out. Refreshing you. Clearing out everything. Bringing fresh air into your house of consciousness. On our journey, as we turn to that center more and more, it shows us how to wake up. We can't walk through anyone else's door, only our own. But it shows us every step of the way how to dissolve that iceberg of experiences and accumulations. It teaches us how to be in the world, but not of the world. And it teaches us how to interact in the world in a way that is so much more helpful than anything we're able to do from our human perception. And in the meantime, that center brings peace, release, calm. We will all be awake someday. We will all be awake someday. We all are one with that infinite energy. How can we not? There's no way we could not wake up. Because in that center, we are awake. We are already awake. And with that knowing, there comes so much gratitude. Just feel that. If you pray, know that you're praying to that center. So that is no less infinite energy than a concept you might hold in your mind about God. If you want to know what the truth of you is, it is this center. Spend time with it. Listen to it. Get to know it. Follow its promptings. Follow its whispers. And be aware again of your breath moving in and through that center and in through that beautiful inner door. Be aware of your breath as that fresh air coming in and out. And let your awareness pay attention to your body and your chair. And feel that calm that you're bringing forward with you. After having spent some time in that center. And when you're ready, allow yourself to take a few deep breaths to reground yourself in your full body, even as you continue holding that awareness of your center. A few grounding breaths, feeling your feet on the floor or your body in the place you're sitting. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your fingers. Let your body slowly move a little bit. Again, just letting that energy refill your physical form. And one more deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you come back next week for our continuation of this exploration on reincarnation and karma. And I do hope you join me on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Central for our Election Day meditation for peace. Again, getting in touch with that center and holding it there in the midst of whatever commotion needs to happen during this time. Holding light for humanity, holding peace for humanity, and holding that desire within us, knowing that it's in each person to wake up. And in whatever way that has to happen, sometimes we wake up. So if you're on my mailing list, you will receive the link for Tuesday. I hope to see you then, and I hope to see you next week as well. Have a wonderful week. Make sure you vote, no matter who you vote for. And just my gratitude for you being here and the opportunity to share with you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye-bye.